Yeah? Yeah. Good afternoon again, everybody. My name is Alex van Klink, and I will tell you a bit about coffee that's grown in a Dutch greenhouse. And I hope you have high expectations for the talk, because then I have to live up to them. First, a bit of introduction. Yeah. Long time ago, who am I? Alex van Klink. I grew up in a chrysanthemum greenhouse in the Bommelerwaard. The Dutch people will know it, but it's a bit of the south of the center of the Netherlands. And 2019, I graduated from Masters in Wageningen, Plant Sciences. And I started working in Delphi Improvement Center. I see some old colleagues, so that's very nice to see them. But 2024, I thought, well, I want to do more than only research. I want to also work together more with people. And I decided to go into education. So now I'm working in the Haas Green Academy. So what is Haas Green Academy? What we say, Haas Green Academy is the explorer of, for and with the green sector in the Netherlands and abroad. Basically, we are a university of applied sciences where you can study, where you can get your bachelor's degree in all kind of green-related topics, amongst which horticulture, and that's where I'm teaching. So this is the study programs that we have in Haas, and to avoid you reading all of them, I highlighted the ones that I think is interesting for the green tech audience. So horticulture and business management, we have an international bachelor's degree, as well as a Dutch bachelor degree, horticulture and arable farming. It's basically the same, but since the presentation is in English, I had to translate both of them. We have international food and agribusiness, more on the business side, and we have a study applied biology, where you really need to learn more research in the green sector, and people end up, for example, in plant breeders. So we have a very nice study program focusing on plants, but also a bit broader, as you see, on food, edible husbandry, but we'll not talk about that today. What I really like about working in the Haas is that we have our own greenhouse in the campus. And you see a picture of there's a bit old picture, because you see still the Sun T lights. We have now completely LED lights. And what's nice, Haas really sounds like kas, the Dutch word for greenhouse, so we call it the Haaskas. And this is just on the campus. So the students go within the lectures, they can go into the greenhouse to learn how to grow crops. You see a bit of our facilities, so we have possibility to do hydroponic growing, deep water culture. We have some completely controlled environments. And of course, general greenhouse compartments. And next to obtaining your bachelor's degree in Haas, we also look to work together a lot with companies throughout the whole world. So we do that via business courses, so we don't only teach to students, but we also teach to professionals. We do graduation projects together with companies, and we can do research with our facilities or within the company together with our students. If you have any questions about this, I was told to not make a too long commercial presentation, but if you have any questions about this, on the final slide is my email address, and we can have a discussion what we can do together with our students, because it's really nice to work together with our students. But you are here today, of course, to learn about coffee. So let's talk about coffee. And I like to say we do the questions in the end. So I'll do my presentation, and then in the end we have the questions. Otherwise, we go into discussion very early, and then I don't reach the end of my slides. But I have a question for you. Who of you drinks coffee on a daily basis? That's, as far as I can see, almost everyone. So it is a very important crop to grow, is my conclusion then. But I have some facts to back it up. I have to look because I don't know them by heart. The average person worldwide drinks 0.3 cups of coffee per day. That's not so much, you would say, but there's a lot of people in the world, so that is several billion cups of coffee per day. The average Dutch person, we do already a bit better, drinks 3 cups of coffee per day. I do at least, and I think a lot of you do as well. And well, coffee comes of course from coffee beans, and if you want to make 1 cup of coffee, and again it depends how strong you make it and how big the cup, etc. So if you look for what it is, maybe you get a slightly different number, but in general, 1 kilogram of dried coffee beans produces 125 cups of coffee. So that's quite a lot from 1 kilogram of beans. And the total value of worldwide coffee production is $16.1 billion per year. So it's quite a big industry. So what kind of coffee do we drink? There's two types of coffee that we roughly drink worldwide. There is of course some specialties, some niches, but in general we drink Arabica coffee and Robusta coffee. And the Arabica coffee is a slightly smaller bean, and that is considered to be higher quality. And that's why we drink 60% of the coffee consumption worldwide is Arabica coffee. And if you drink coffee in the Netherlands, in generally that's Arabica coffee as well. And the 40% of the coffee consumption is Robusta coffee. Well, what is so unique about the Arabica coffee? So Robusta coffee we can forget for now, because I won't talk about it. Arabica coffee does not really like very high temperatures, and that's why we grow them at high altitudes, above 600 meters, but even up to 2,000 meters you will find plantations. So that is that's a quite unique place to grow crops. Well, a little bit about coffee itself. Coffee is originally from Ethiopia. It's called Arabica coffee because the Arabs took also some coffee. They started to cultivate them in Arabian countries and really started the coffee culture. So that's why we call it Arabica coffee, but originally coming from Ethiopia. It's a perennial crop, and in the wild species, I'm not sure if you find them anymore, but they can be more than 10 meters high. We prune them in plantations up to be 5 meters high, so it's quite a big crop. It does good in well-watered soil, so it uses quite some water. It's self-pollinating. The Arabica at least, Robusta is not self-pollinating, but Arabica is self-pollinating. And what is the coffee beans? With beans you think, of course, about legumes, but coffee beans is not really a bean, it's the seed of the coffee plant. So on the coffee plant you see here a nice drawing. I really love these old-fashioned drawings of crops or of plants. That's why I decided to study plant sciences once. But on the seed you see the flowers, on the plant you see the flowers, and then on the flowers you get the fruits and the ripe berries. There is a seed in between them, it's about this big. And then we dry that seed and we burn it and it's coffee. So the seed is the coffee bean. But we know it originally came from Ethiopia. Who does know where coffee is originally coming from? Or is currently produced, I'm sorry? Brazil, Colombia, yeah? Brazil, yeah. Very well. Costa Rica, yeah? I hear a lot of South, Middle American countries, India, what are you saying? Indonesia, yeah. Yeah. So as a teacher, I want to share with the public, but I see that it doesn't go very well with the microphone. But now we can continue, I think. But maybe later we need it again. I'm not sure how many of these questions I have actually. But coffee is produced in what we call the coffee belt. So it's basically all the countries along the equator, which have a color which is different than black. So in the black countries we don't really produce coffee, but we produce a lot of coffees in South and Middle America. In Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, there's quite some coffee production, a little bit in Yemen, which is really close to, of course, the original place where coffee came from. And in Southeast Asia, India, also in Nepal, some coffee is produced. And in Hawaii, they produce a very unique type of coffee called Kona coffee, which is considered high quality. But we grow it over the whole coffee belt, and in the most countries, both Arabica and Robusta is produced, but in the higher altitudes we produce Arabica. And I heard the first person said Brazil. That's really the main production country for coffee that we drink in the Netherlands, at least. So coffee prices. Why do we have this project? It's quite important to know what the coffee price has done. So this is the coffee price in US dollar per pound since 2016. And then you see, 2019 it was really cheap-ish with $100 per pound, but now the highest point is around $400 per pound. So if you take the minimum and the maximum, we have an increase of 4 times, but let's say coffee prices has tripled with more or less 3 times. And for the Dutch people, this might be familiar. It's the Albert Heijn. But why do we have this picture? It's an empty shelf. And because the coffee prices are increasing, there's also within the Netherlands a lot of discussion between the coffee supplying companies and the supermarkets about the prices. Because when prices increase, everyone also wants to earn a little bit of extra money from it. It's an opportunity. And then we get these types of things that the supermarkets refuse to buy certain types of coffee, or the coffee suppliers say, you need to pay a bit more. So there's a lot of things happening in coffee. Maybe we can get the microphone. Who knows why this is the case? Very well. I'll just say it for the whole group. Climate change. So we know the climate is changing, and this is really impacting coffee production. Why is that? The first thing for Arabica production, higher temperatures. Arabica doesn't like very warm temperatures, let's say 21 degrees, a bit below 20 degrees. And we grow them on the mountain. If you want to grow on the mountain and you want to have the lower temperatures, you need to go higher and higher, but the higher you get on the mountain, the smaller the area of production gets, but also the more difficult it gets to come there. So that is an important part. Unpredictable rainfall. We see that a lot of countries around the equator, they have very predictable rainy and non-rainy seasons. At least they used to have it. It's not like in the Netherlands. Well, it's predictable as well, but it just rains always. It's also not true anymore, by the way. But they used to have very predictable rain and non-rain seasons. And we see now that it gets very unpredictable. And we learned before that coffee needs a lot of water, so it's very difficult for coffee production. We have got an increase in pests and diseases. And coffee is generally grown by smallholder farmers. And they can improve their production with good farming practices, let's say. But because they are small and not well organized, they have very much problems to get to the right knowledge. So there's a lot of problems in the coffee supply chain. And if you get less production, you're looking for more production and you need to get more land. And if you get more land, then you're looking to, for example, burn away some forest to be able to produce more crops. And this is what we really see happening in Brazil, for example. So deforestation, and it's very complex. Also, other types of production are causing it, but also it's done for coffee production. So there's quite some problems in the coffee supply chain. So that's why we asked the question, what if we could save coffee production without increased deforestation? So that's what we're working on. So coffee production is becoming more and more difficult due to climate change. Coffee consumption is actually going up. So how can we look towards this coffee production worldwide? And that's probably why you're here, because we are working together with 3 companies, I have to say. On the right, you might recognize me from the Haas. In the middle is from Koffiejongens, and from the left is from InnoGrowers. Koffiejongens is a coffee supplier. InnoGrowers is a group of Dutch growers, and together we are working on making, we call it the first Dutch coffee plantation. It's not exactly true because there have been some other things, but to create a coffee plantation in the Netherlands. And this is nice because this is our greenhouse, so you see also the inside of it. So I'm very happy with this picture. A little bit of background about these coffees, about these partners, and then we go to the trial, because then you know a bit why we do it. So the Koffiejongens is a coffee supplier who are known for the compostable cups. So you see them over there. So they have compostable coffee cups. They have a bit of a way of trading that you can get every month you get to the mailbox a cup of coffee, or let's say a box of cups. And they are really working together also already with coffee growers in the traditional coffee growing countries, Brazil, Uganda, But they're also looking for, okay, can we create a different supply chain? And they are very much looking to create a niche coffee. So a type of coffee that is really local and which they can market in a very nice way. And together with InnoGrowers, which I'm very happy about, because who are InnoGrowers? They're not super well known maybe, but it is a cooperation of 8 growers who are looking for new crops to grow in Dutch greenhouses. If we look to Dutch greenhouses, ornamental sector, we have quite some variation, but in the food sector, the vegetables, it's tomato, cucumber, bell pepper, strawberry, and a bit of lettuce and eggplant. It's nice to grow more types of crops. They are working together to see what kind of crops can we grow. You have heard, if you go to the Lidl, you can find Dutch passion fruits. I'm very enthusiastic about it. But they're grown by one of their growers, and they are super tasty. And they're also looking for different crops, but also together with us for coffee. This is just some slides, but I'm just telling it out of my heart. It's way easier. And together, we have this project goal, and the goal is, can we grow sustainable coffee in a Dutch greenhouse commercially? Why commercially? Because the growers are involved, and we need to have a business model behind it, otherwise it will never be a success. That's our philosophy. And it needs to be sustainable, so that has some challenges, but also some opportunities, so that's really nice. And why do we want to grow in a greenhouse? Well, we are at Green Tech, so not sure if I need to explain all of this to you, but anyways, we'll do it. We have a couple of advantages of growing plants in a Dutch greenhouse, I have to say. It's probably also from other greenhouses, but I'm just talking about Dutch greenhouse, so if you have an example from somewhere else, feel free to throw it at me, but I'm focusing on the Dutch sector. First one is climate control. It's of course the obvious one. We can create the climate that we want, that the plant needs, or that we think the plant needs. Second one is CO2 enrichment. That's no fancy technology whatsoever, but we know photosynthesis is more efficient when we increase CO2, and that's very difficult outside, although with the increasing CO2, slowly we go that way, but we're nowhere close to what we have in Dutch greenhouses. Water use, we can limit water use, and we can keep pests and diseases out. So that's, you can say, this is just a slide. A little bit of more background on that. What we see in Dutch greenhouses, and we have an example for tomato, but you see it for different crops, we can produce 50 to 100 kilograms of tomatoes per square meter per year. Largely dependent on the varieties. If you grow the small varieties, then you simply have less water in your tomato, decreasing the production. So that's why I have such a broad range for the tomatoes on the vine. The bigger ones, we can go up to 100 kilograms, or sometimes I read articles, growers going even above it. If you look to open field production, Mexico, Spain, China, we have 5 to 8 kilograms per square meter per year. So the kilograms per square meter per year, we can increase. And that's nice, because if we can grow efficiently, we need less space to grow the same amount of product. As I said, that could contribute to the land use, and that is due to climate conditions for optimal growth. One of the most important ones is the CO2 enrichment. Every one of you who ever did a plant science course knows these kinds of graphs. This is an example from eucalyptus, which is, a bit strange example, but it was the nicest picture I could find on Google, where you see it's grown at 3 CO2 concentrations in the air. 150 ppm, we get not so much CO2, that's also less than we have outside. 350 ppm is already a doubling of photosynthesis, and therefore of potential production compared to 150. Well, 350 is what we used to have outside. Currently it's around 400, I think. And if you go to 1000, and that is for most greenhouse crops a bit the maximum where it's still effective to dose CO2, we see even a more or less 1.5 increase. So by increasing CO2, this is of course one example, but we know it from various examples, we could increase the production by more or less 1.5. So that's one of the big factors we're looking at. Second, and that is I think a very big one, often a bit overlooked in the Netherlands because we tend to have lots of water, although that is changing. But water use in greenhouses, here you see an example from research from the WUR, which is a bit old, but it's just a nice example. Outside, water use, kilogram per tomato. This is a tomato example again, it's most easiest to find the tomato examples. We have 60 liters of water per kilogram tomatoes. Then if you use plastic tunnels, you go a bit lower already because you can keep the moisture in, decreasing a bit the transpiration. And then we go to the Netherlands. With reused rainwater, we have something like 14 kilograms per 14 liters of water per kilogram of tomato, which is a big saving. And if we think that we need 140 liters of water for 1 cup of coffee, and that's not because the cups are so big, then it's potentially very nice to be able to save the water. Furthermore, what we're looking for is protection against pests and diseases, which in greenhouses, very difficult to find numbers about this, but you can do very well with, for example, putting the fence in your windows, doing biological predators. If we look to fungi, by good climate control practices, we can decrease the fungi infections very much. So there's quite a lot of advantages of growing in greenhouses, why we want to do this project. Of course, there's also challenges. If there would be no challenges, then there would be already commercial coffee cultivation in the Netherlands. And the three main challenges, I think, for me, are energy demand. We need to heat our greenhouses with an average temperature of, let's say, 21 degrees. It's not extreme, but still it needs quite some heat input. Labor is a big one. Picking coffee is really a specialty job. It's very small berries. You need to be able to do it quick. Ideally, we need to find a cultivar that we can pick it while walking. Otherwise, we need to also have the cart going to the greenhouse where we pick the coffee. So that's a very big input. And the last one is knowledge. Because to be able to achieve all the first ones, we need to know how to do it. And that is the fun part, because that's what we're working on right now. How to grow coffee in a Dutch greenhouse. Who think it's possible to grow coffee in a Dutch greenhouse? Can I see hands? Who thinks it isn't possible? Who doesn't dare to put their hand up? There's always a few. We know it's possible. The WUR, Blijswijk already did research to it, and we can produce coffee in a Dutch greenhouse. The big question is, can we make a good business case out of it? And to do that, we started our project, and I'll tell you a bit what we did. So we have currently 3 students who are working on an explanatory study. So they're working for 20 weeks on the project, and they're looking in literature, can we grow coffee? They're looking what varieties do we need? They are already starting with a small trial. They are looking for genetics, so they're doing all kind of different things. Then, based on their results, we will make a plan how to go forward in the coming years with this coffee cultivation. And it's a perennial crop, so we need to keep the project alive for a long time. And what I think is a nice thing, because I'm a teacher, is throughout the whole project we will have students working on the project. So, of course, as a teacher, I'm involved, and a colleague of me is involved, and the growers are involved. But we want the students to do the job, which is very nice, because we can learn them how to grow tomatoes. That is, you can learn from a textbook. It's still very difficult, but we know how to do it. But now we're doing something completely new, and that requires a whole new level of learning from the students to obtain that. So that's very cool, I think. So how does the project look like? So a bit of a spoiler, coffee grows very slowly. So we started in February with the project, and we get some seeds in, let's say, March, and then the plants are now this big, or something like that. So it's really explanatory, so it's very difficult to say already what will the results be. But I have some nice things of what we did, and the first thing is a trip to plantation Meijsen. It's in Belgium, very close to Brussels, and they have this is the fancy greenhouse. It's like a botanical garden, like a zoo for plants. But next to that, there's a conventional Venlo greenhouse, and there they have a big collection of coffee. mostly coming from Africa. So the first thing, you see my colleague Ralph with the Haas jacket. Yeah, there we were able to get in touch with them, and they supplied us with some genetics, which is really cool. So we could start with the project, and also a very fun trip, of course. And what we're now working on mainly, the main goal of the first stage is, next to the literature part, propagation. Because we find out it's very difficult to get the right plant material. So if we get the plant material, we want to be able to, we want to be able to propagate them quickly enough to get to the right amount of plants that we need for our research. So we're focused on different germination methods. Of course, seeds. We see that we have coffee from different sources, from commercial coffee producing countries, from the botanical garden. We have also bought some ornamental coffee plants, which you can just buy in the Intertuin, let's say, so the Dutch plant shop. And we put all of them together, and we are working on germination. So we germinated them in petri dishes. Now we're planting them. We see that goes pretty well, depending on the variety, of course. And if they come from Africa, the supply chain has maybe damaged the seed a bit, so the germination rate is way lower. And we're looking to vegetative propagation. So we made cuttings of the coffee, which goes very well. And we are doing tissue culture, which is a bit more difficult, let's say. But the cuttings goes very well, so we don't need the tissue culture probably. So that's where we focus on right now. And then, of course, we're looking to continue. So the current batch of students finishes their product in summer. They're really much working right now on student stuff, so writing reports so we can read the reports and give them a mark. They focus on what should the growing conditions be of our current varieties, acquiring different varieties. So theoretically, which varieties should we acquire? Because that's very important, because we have a small space, so we cannot go infinitely big. So we need to make, based on theory already, a selection of varieties. And what the nice part is, if the first coffee is produced, which will take if it goes well, 2 years, maybe a bit less. If it goes very well, in commercial cultivation it takes about 3 years. Then we will have also students from a different company, of a different educational program in international food and agribusiness. I see one of the colleagues in the room as well. And they want to calculate, okay, is the supply chain for the coffee that we grow in the Netherlands, how does that compare to the supply chain of the coffee that we go in, for example, Africa or Brazil? We already mentioned in the previous slides, probably we will use less water and maybe less land if you can get a good production. But on the other hand, if we put in a lot of fossil fuels, maybe it's not a sustainable option at all. So that we need to calculate for as well. First, we need to know, of course, what is then the result, because otherwise you can never know per bean or per kilogram of beans what is the impact. So all these things are running at the same time, which gets me very enthusiastic, as you notice. And we're now working together with the partners to make sure we can continue in a nice way with the project. So we focus now very much on the theory and the propagation, and we hope to drink the first cup of coffee, well, what do we say, 1.5 years, something like that. It would be very nice. Then we can taste it maybe here again on Green Tech, although we'll probably not produce enough coffee to supply all of you, but maybe we can do a small tasting session. So that is very brief what we are doing with coffee. If you have any questions about it, or you say, this is very cool that we can work together with students like this, feel free to contact me. My email address is over here. I see a lot of pictures, so I'm not going to read it, so feel free to contact me or talk to me in the end of the session. So that was what I have prepared. So maybe we can do some questions from the audience. I see a hand already.
Hey, thanks for the project you do. Thanks for the information you share. I'm a bit familiar with the competition coffee varieties, but I'm still born to be a grower. So I have questions like, a quick check for ChatGPT gives us an info that during this summer you will get just veg stage.
Yes.
So you need from 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Is it a solution? I have 2 questions. Is it a solution to work from cuts or in vitro from the mother plants, who are already received the age? Is the first question. And the second one, what are the requirements for the chilling period? Because we know from the soft fruit production that plants need chilling period to give us flowers and soft fruits. So that is the same here.
So the first question is working from cuttings. That's what we're looking at. You saw the pictures. I think it is a bit quicker than from seed, but if we say we keep the plant alive, for example, 7 years, and the propagation takes not a lot of space, if we go towards a commercial cycle, let's say, yeah, it's a matter of weeks, maybe months that we differ, and if you can get a nice propagation place somewhere in the nursery or with a different company, it is not necessarily competitive to do cuttings. But if we have hybrid seeds, for example, then it is nice to have cuttings because then we can get good genetics. Does it answer your question?
And the second question, the chilling period requirements.
Yeah. So I am not 100% familiar with the chilling requirements, but the students are currently working on a strategy, and yeah, there's two possible strategies. The first one is that we cultivate throughout winter, then we would need artificial lights, but that will also increase our energy input, because then we also need to heat the greenhouse. Another option which I like, let's say, is to use the sun in the Netherlands, because the coffee doesn't require a lot of sunlight, so we can use the sun quite well. And say in the winter we slow down the plant by cooling the greenhouse.
Yeah, that is the solution to give the yield, to get and the solution for having a plant like on a baby stage, having it like that already, and then just two months you give it to flowers. Then after the first harvest you give it winter, and then you put it on flowering.
Yeah, exactly.
Stage.
Yeah, but we normally the flowering period is a couple of weeks, let's say, and we want to see if we can increase it. So then, let's say March until October, if you can get flowering, it would be very nice. Then you have a longer production cycle, and then you can cool down in winter, for example. But this is still all to be decided. That this is what I'm thinking based on what I'm seeing currently, but we have no data to back it up yet.
Yeah, it's not a challenge, it's an inspiration. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for the very interesting presentation. So I understood growing coffee is a challenge, but I also know of one company, at least on Instagram, from the Netherlands that is growing tea. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with that, yeah.
Is there any comparison? I know plants obviously are different, but on the business side or challenge side, is there anything?
Well, I'm not the one to comment on how the production cycle of tea works, but it is quite different than of coffee. So the tea you harvest the fresh leaves, you're not really looking into flowering. Coffee you need to induce flowering, get fruit set and berries. So climate-wise it might be comparable, but the strategies that result into higher production are not necessarily the same. But I'm aware with them, and they're not too far actually from our university, so it might be good to contact them once. Thank you.
I've heard it's also important for the altitude. What altitude the coffee is grown at for the quality. I've heard like higher altitudes give like denser beans or something. Is there something that you do like overpressure it or underpressure it?
Yeah, I heard that as well. But I also see examples of people who are able to produce it on lower altitudes still, with a good quality. So probably if the genetics are right, I think we are still able to do the good beans. But genetic selection will be very important. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I wondered, because coffee is great because there's all this variety. It's wonderful. And there's some varieties that are very, very rare, also because of disease pressures like coffee rust. And yet your plan of attack right now, and I just wonder what is the thinking behind, because you will need flavor as well, right? So you could say, okay, I'm just gonna take a yellow bourbon, and people are willing to pay a premium for that. But you're going through all this genetics
Yeah.
as well. And how come is that for the greenhouse?
Yeah, so there is a very big difference in how productive different coffee varieties are. But if you're going to, we don't know what exactly the input is, but if you calculate with, let's say, the average cost to operate a Dutch greenhouse and then the average price for coffee and etc., then we need a very big, maybe even 10 times, maybe even more increase in production to make it feasible. Yeah, if you then see that a lot of different varieties have, one variety produces 5-6 times as much as one other variety, yeah, then you really need to be looking at the already high producing varieties to be able to get that potential.
And so that
So because yeah, you can get a very nice niche variety which is worth money, but if it's 6 times as low in production, then you need to multiply the input even more.
Gotcha, and that then, so that's how you ended up as well with Arabica, because then the inverse question is, well, why not go for a very high-yielding Robusta variety?
Yeah, so there's 3 reasons I think we don't need go for Robusta. The first one is quality, but to be honest, if I hear coffee specialists talk, there's also very good tasting Robusta varieties, and it's just really a bit of a culture thing that we say Arabica is per definition better, because it's not per definition the case. But Robusta, we need pollinators, which can be challenging. And Robusta requires high temperatures, and that's
The
not a good
heating,
business case
yeah.
in relation to
Yeah.
Dutch greenhouse settings. So that's why we go for Arabica. We will not do the marketing, that will be up to the Koffiejongens, but I think it's up to them to create a new niche based on very good taste, local, based on what we can produce to market it in a good way. And then maybe we can get a competitor next to what you say, yellow bourbon or something like that, or the coffee that is very expensive, it's eaten by the cats. Then we can get an own niche of coffee that people are really interested in because it's local, which is cool, and because it tastes very good, because it needs to taste very good. So we only test varieties that have a good quality anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I have a question, because now you're starting a lot of your research from the practices that are being done outdoors, right? I hear a lot already about chilling, about hours, about design, about pruning. How far can you stretch your thinking into starting from an indoor condition and then designing a plant or designing a cultivation strategy that is completely different as what we do currently outdoors? But because it's completely different, we can rethink it. Is there...
Yeah, I think we can do it, but that's a very good question. Yeah, what I think, in theory we can do that, but we also have the practical side, that we need to be able to produce something at some time to keep the enthusiasm going for this project. And we don't understand well enough right now coffee in Dutch greenhouses, so the pragmatic approach would be to start with what we know from outside, take it inside and improve it. Just like we saw, I think, with the strawberry cultivation in the Netherlands, which is really coming from outside and then going inside. And I think you're also hinting a bit at that. And that we're now seeing more and more the greenhouse high-tech way of thinking into this, into this cultivation. I think we need to do something similar, because knowledge on this topic, specifically in greenhouses, is very scarce. So we need to start somewhere, and that is the pragmatic approach, I think. Yeah. Third question.
A short add. The first, the spectrum, as guys said, the pressure, on the height. Maybe it's interesting to focus also on the spectrum, which changed. And the thing I wanted to add, the competition coffee starts from 3,000 euros per kilo. So that's the case. If you grow varieties for competition from 3,000 euro, it's a good deal. So good luck, as I said.
For 3,000 euros per kilo, I would be. I think we can make a nice cup of coffee. Any more questions? Then we're nicely in time, so the people from the technical department are also happy. thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to talk to me or send me an email on my email address or find me on LinkedIn or whatever. So thank you very much and enjoy your day.